everyone, and welcome to Let's Talk Tech Part 2. This NFCA webinar will feature Diamond Kinetics, HitTrax, and Rapsodo. We will have member coaches taking us through ways that they use the technology, from data collection to implementation at practice and even game time decisions. My name is Joanna Lane. I'm the Director of Education for the NFCA, and we're thrilled that you're joining us for the second part of this series. And let's get this underway. I know you have a lot of questions and there's a lot to learn, so let's talk tech.
Appreciate the invitation here to talk about Diamond Kinetics. We've started a really good relationship with them, fantastic customer support, so pretty easy for us to talk about how they can help your program like they're helping ours. I know the tech savvy that it says written on the tweet today. I wouldn't say that we're the greatest or the most tech savvy people out there, but I think we also know that you know, the data collecting and the all of this is something that's not going to go away. So we've kind of jumped in with both feet. We've got a flight scope, we've got a yak attack, we're using Diamond Kinetics. We're into it. So excited to share about what we're talking about with you guys today.
All right, so I'll start it off. When we got our Diamond Kinetics sensors to go on the bats, we got one for all the players, got some extra ones as well. And we set up a little docking station downstairs by our batting cage where all the chargers are at. The sensors come on these high performance mounts that go on the bottom of the bats. They're a rubber silicone contraption that holds it. And basically, they take them off the chargers, they put it onto the bottom of the bat, fold it over, and it holds it pretty snug on there. And then they're able to swing throughout the day in the cages and scrimmages in games that they want, which we don't really use them in games, but we're able to collect the data and able to use it starting with that docking station that we have downstairs. And then when they're done, they just peel it off the end of the bat, put it right back onto their charger. And then we go in there after the day is over with an iPad, an iPhone, and dump all the data from all of the knobs, all of the swings that the girls took for that day, and we dump it into the app. So now that we have access to all those swings, it's generally around 120, 130 swings a day those sensors can collect. And after that, it kind of maxes out at that. So we're taking more than 120 swings before we dump the data into the app, then we're going to lose some swings. But we do a pretty good job of dumping the data every single day once they're done. We're able to, like I said, the 120 swings that they're able to take per day. We're able to monitor kind of how many swings they're taking as well, based on that app and seeing it in real time. So that helps us as well. Like I said, we're able to look at it on the app on the iPhone or an iPad. We have an iPad down there at all times, so we're able to access the data and kind of make some adjustments in real time if needed. But I'll let Trav talk about the next one.
Yeah, the value to us as the coaches is the metrics. There's a couple of the big ones that we look at. That's max acceleration, like how quickly can the player get the barrel to top speed. I think a lot with, in the past we've kind of recruited players and gone, oh, she's got some good bat speed. Now there's a chance for us to actually measure it and how quickly they can get to that point. I think with a lot of the tweets that we get tagged in right now and all these girls are hitting front toss 250 feet, it's not really giving us a good, accurate judge on how quickly they can get to the pitch with velocity. So that's a big one with the max acceleration. And we also find that's pretty much the DNA of a top elite hitter is how quickly you can get that bat through the zone. So that's a big one. Then the longer the hitter has to make a swing decision and still get there on time is important. So max acceleration is a good one for us. And they can handle velocity better, which, you go deep into the postseason or trying to win some tournaments that you guys are trying to win, you're facing velocity late in the tournament. So the players that can handle that better are the ones we're looking for. And, of course, distance in the zone. How long is the barrel in the zone? And is the hitter giving themselves the best opportunity to hit different speeds? So max acceleration and the distance in the zone are big ones for us. And once we get to this next slide here, I'll show you a little bit about the swing fingerprint that Diamond Kinetics has run out there. And we've found that very, very important in the development of our players. And I'll touch on that here in a little bit.
Yeah, so the value to our players is obviously the top of the side, right? Measurement is motivation. We're able to measure how many swings they're taking, and we're also able to measure at what swing throughout the day are they kind of starting to decline in terms of some of these measurements that we find very valuable or that we kind of focus on. So for every player, it's going to be different, and we're able to kind of take a Travis at swing 85 during the day, you really start to decline. So let's try to keep our swings somewhere around that area, because we don't want to work on perfecting something where we're tired and all of a sudden our mechanics start getting a little out of whack. We don't want to practice something that's going in the wrong direction. So the accountability on how many swings they're taking, it also creates a little bit of a competition. When they start, seeing numbers, and it's easy to kind of, I can go into the cage against Travis and be like, I can hit the ball further, or, I got better bat speed. Well, now all of a sudden we got numbers that are being attached to this. So it does create that competitive atmosphere or environment where they're going every day and they're working on things because they want to beat, their teammate and whatever it is that they're competing in that day off of numbers. So really helps us too on approach, as you'll see when we get into the swing fingerprint. Certain hitters can handle certain pitches a lot better than other hitters, and it really helps us build an approach with them and what they should be focusing, what they should be looking for early on in the count. Obviously, when you get behind, you got to protect, you got to try to cover as much as you can, but this really gives us a chance to show them, give them the visual of what they're really good at hitting and where they should hunt pitches. And obviously what days is going to be a little difficult depending on the pitcher that's pitching against them. Pitcher, kind of their pitches and what they're good at is opposite of what the hitter's good at. So it gives us something to build an approach and really give them a good game plan going into the game.
All right, so here's the swing fingerprint, which we really enjoy. On our iPad and iPhone, it's in 3D, so we can scroll around a little bit. But as you can see here, this is one of our hitters. Red is kind of hot, so the more red it is, the better. Getting down to the blue, they're a little colder and have a little bit more trouble with that pitch in that location. You'll see here with this hitter, anything at the belt or just above the belt, she's money. So this is our girl that we want up there against the Rose Bowl pitcher or a pitcher that works up in the zone. So it's also allowed us to kind of put our lineup together a little bit, depending on who we're going to face that day, of who handles certain parts of the zone better than others. And I just screenshotted 3 of those there. It's so much more fun to play around with on the iPad when you can move around and get the catcher view and move it all the way around and get the pitcher view and go side on. If I scroll to the next one. So here we go. Here it's, you can see kind of with the arrows, it's where the sort of the bat is traveling on that certain pitch. So it's easy to see why this hitter handles up in the zone well, because she stays on plane really well and can drive that ball in the air. But as the ball gets a little lower down into the zone, her bat path's not as good. She has trouble getting under those pitches down there, and we're talking swings and misses and a lot of ground balls there.
Yeah, she has a tendency of chasing the ball down with her bat instead of actually redirecting her swing a little bit to try to get down to it. And as Trav said, when she does hit it, she just beats it right into the ground. So this gave us a really good opportunity that once, obviously, the season was cut a little short, we had all the hitters in for some hitter talks as they went, they went home or some even stayed in town. But when they got a chance to work on their swing and get after it a little bit, we gave them some things to work on. And this really made it a lot easier to talk about certain things. So with this hitter, we're like, look, your swing's really flat and level through the zone, but you really struggle on that ball down because you're so flat and level through the zone. If we can learn how to redirect the swing a little bit and try to get down to that ball and work the ball back up a little bit, then we have a chance of doing some damage, because can't really see it on this, but this particular girl really hits the ball hard. And for her to get down there and get that and get a little air under it, she's going to give herself a chance for a lot of extra base hits, obviously some homers as well, as opposed to some ground ball out. So this visual just gave us a chance to bring them in, talk about hitting, see the arrows of where her bat path is working, and then send her home with some information that she could work on.
Yeah, just another way for us to have conversations with our hitters, which which is fantastic. A lot of times they can be feeling one thing and we can be seeing something else, but then you actually get in here and you see the data and see the numbers. You can't really argue it too much. So I know this was a real eye-opener to a number of our players to sit in and see this, and allowed them to put a visual with it. So a fantastic part of what we've done with Diamond Kinetics and helped us develop our hitters.
So this is a CSV file for those that haven't really been collecting a whole lot of data yet. Most of the data collection machines collect the data and they give you a CSV file like this that have a ton of columns and a bunch of different things to measure. I know for us, like you don't want to look at all of it because all of it really isn't important or not as important to us, and we don't want to make it more difficult than it needs to be. Like Trav said in the very beginning, as all of us, data is pretty new in the softball arena. So we're trying to figure out what's important for softball, what's important for us, what's important for our philosophy. I know a couple things that we've kind of pointed out in this CSV file from Diamond Kinetics that we like is the max acceleration, which is your columns RST, and then the one next to it, impact momentum, which is UVW. I know those numbers right there don't really tell you guys much of a story, but for us, it's basically connecting your bat speed and your impact momentum, which is going to be your force behind it. So we don't want to have somebody with a ton of bat speed, maybe they're swinging too light of a bat, and then all of a sudden their impact momentum just doesn't match it, and they're hitting the ball, and it's almost like they're hitting it with a wet newspaper. Here, we're able to marry the two, see what bat speed matches up with the impact momentum the best, and then all of a sudden we got some driving force behind it. And once again, to go back to looking for those extra base hits and your homers here and there.
Yeah, so we know that this data is fantastic, but it doesn't replace coaching at all. I know if we're the game on the line and we're not talking about any numbers, we're talking about what pitch we're looking for and how we're trying to win the game. But this has been very good for us, helping to develop our players individually. We haven't yet sort of compared everyone and put all their numbers up against each other. We've sort of found that right now it's just individualized, trying to get the most out of our hitters. But we think a competition part's going to be coming pretty soon in that regard. So,
yeah, this is just a snapshot once you get onto the actual app. So for us, as I said earlier, we have the ability to see all of our hitters, but our hitters only get to see themselves. So if I was one of our hitters, here's my here's a snapshot. As soon as I sign on to the app, this is what I'm seeing. So you can kind of see down the right. I know it's a little small, but you can kind of see down the right-hand side. You got different dates. You got different amounts of swings. You can click on any one of those, and it'll give you all the data that was collected during that day during those swings. So the front page there is a very good summary and snapshot of what it is that you're going to get into when you're looking at all the different data collected. Yeah, so so we use Softball Cloud, which is a software scrubbing company, and basically those CSV files that I was talking about earlier, you can take a CSV file from a Rapsodo or Diamond Kinetics or a YAKRTech or HitTrax. You can take all those, and they've got baseball as well, and you can even do the TrackMan in baseball. But they're taking all those CSV files and they're really helping us make sense of it and really helping us marry, for instance, Diamond Kinetics is pre-contact data, bat speed and impact momentum and bat angle or attack angle and stuff like that. And then we have a device, Flight Scope, that gets the post-contact, gets the launch angle, the distance, the exit velocity, all that stuff. So we're able to use Softball Cloud that's taking the pre-contact data from Diamond Kinetics and the post-contact data from Flight Scope and kind of marrying the two so that we're really getting a good idea of what each swing is doing, so that when we're working on things and we're giving some little pieces of advices and things to hit on with each hitter individually, that they're actually seeing some growth based on the numbers.
Yeah, so we've found, I know we've got 30 seconds left, Joanna, we've found the best way to figure out the data is to jump in. You've got to jump in and try and figure it out yourself. Don't be afraid to get in there and not really know. I mean, these companies will help you. There's always someone there to help you figure it out. There's videos you can watch and everything. So don't be scared of it. I think it's here. It's going to be around for a while. It's not going anywhere, and it's going to be the way of the future with all these young players sending in all their numbers. And if we don't know what they mean, then it's not going to be good for us. So thanks for your time here today, and we really appreciate Diamond Kinetics and everything they've done for our program.
Thanks.
Thank you, guys. Well done, and well done on the timing. That's a tall task to fit all that information in a short amount of time. So appreciate you there. If you have questions specifically on Diamond Kinetics, feel free to throw it in the chat. I'm sure Travis and Troy will banter with you a little bit here while we go. We'll also ask those questions at the very end. So let's go ahead and Travis, you can take off your screen share, and Coach Hirai, if you want to throw yours up, we're going to move into HitTrax. So Coach Jeff Hirai from Seattle is going to talk us through a little bit of HitTrax and how they use HitTrax in their program. Coach, go ahead whenever you're ready.
How you doing, everyone? Thanks for having me, Joanna. So I'm going to talk to you about HitTrax and what we use and how we use it. It's like a video game. It's great for our players to see instant, especially coming from the Northwest. We get rain here. So we hit inside so we can see where the ball is landing, how far we're hitting it, where we're hitting it, and all that. So I'm just going to jump right in and show you it. So this is basically all of our players. And if we wanted to use a new session, I'm going to use Madison here, our big left-handed hitter. And if we want to go to a new session and just play ball, even though we can't do this, I just want to show you what it kind of looks like. So it shows you in the right-hand corner, it shows you where the pitch is coming in and where you're making contact. It shows you where on the big screen, it shows you where the ball is. You can change that to the lower right-hand corner. You can shows you the point of contact. And then you have the video component that obviously we don't have our camera set up, but it attaches every swing to every hit, and you can have it. So this is what we look like when we do it. We have our video going up in our right-hand corner, and we have where the pitch is in our left hand or our right hand, lower right-hand corner. And then we just have this running the whole time. So I'm going to go into how we use this in practice. So basically we use this in practice every day. So every time we jump into the cage, it's collecting data. So I'm going to finish this, and then I'm going to go to Madison's, and I'm going to go to session review, and I pre-picked I'm going to pick hers. And then basically what we do is we take our information, and this is on the right-hand side, has all the swings that she's taken. And it gives you exit velocity, launch angle, distance, what type it was, if it was a line drive, fly ball, home run, and the result. We make fun of this a little bit because they have the greatest defense of all time, because we hit the ball like off the wall and it's caught by the center fielder. It's kind of our team joke that we're playing against the greatest team of all time. And so I joke that it's me playing every defensive position. Okay, so we go to session analysis. So basically what we do here is we send this every day. Every time they use it, it shows you average velocity, max velocity. For this power hitter, we want our line drive percentage and fly ball percentage to be the highest. And right now she's at 58%, ground ball at 20%. So we send this to her all our players every day. One of our coaches does this, and then we can go to another slide, which is our launch angle. And this will tell her, and we'll send this to her too. So we want to do is we want to be in the 10% to 30% range. of our launch at 10 degrees to 30 degrees, sorry, launch angle. And the percentage on the top is basically shows you the percentages of hits that she hits. So right now she's at 19 and 18% of her hits are in exactly where we want. We want it to be, especially being a power hitter, being the 20 to 30 degrees. And then we can go to what we use the most is our video component of this. So what we do is, and we talk about quadrant hitting. So we talk about, just like what Travis was talking about, can she hit the up ball? Can she hit the down ball? Everyone has a hole in their swing, and we try to teach that we can hit both by a barrel awareness, and that's another talk. But so what I'm going to do is I can block out these quadrants and refresh it, and I can take and look, and we'll go the highest velocity ones, and I can take, let's say, there it is, she had 81.6. I could take this swing, I can look at it, you can see where it was. I can look at this one, this is a good double. So I'm going to take that swing, and I'm going to hit compare, and then I'm going to block these out, and I'm going to go to a low swing, and I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to take this swing, which is a low pitch, and I'm going to compare it. And now it's, again, this is now Right View Pro, and I can compare these, and I just get it to contact, and then I can sync it. So now we can look at her swing step by step, her approach, and how she's getting to a high pitch and a low pitch, and how she's getting to it. And we talk about this, we do this every day, we hit low and high pitches every day on the tees and our front toss and everything. So we're talking about this all the time. So the cool thing about HitTrax is we can take this, and I hit this email button right here, and it sends her an email right away. And so she could play around with it. It's instant, which is awesome. I can stop practice, right? Or if we're doing an individual session, I could stop right away and go over her swing real quick and send her an email, and she gets it right away. So this is a great, great component of what we do. We have our camera on every time. So we're collecting data. I just like looking at this swing. Sorry, guys. It's a really good swing. She hits bombs. So anyway, so back to it. We also have the component of using the spray chart. So what I do here is I do the same thing with when we talk about quadrant hitting, if we're hitting upper pitches, we want to pull the ball more. So we're going to take those, and then we can see what she's doing, and I can refresh it, and you can see all the dots are over. She's a left-handed hitter, so she's pulling the ball pretty good. Her red, which is outs, is obviously she's getting jammed or whatnot. And then I can block out each quadrant if I want to, and then I can just do the lower ones here. And she should be a little bit more up the middle. And she is. She's more up the middle. She's definitely a pull hitter, but she's hitting it up the middle a little bit more. And you can see that she hits the low ball really, really well. She has a max velocity of 84.6. And if you go to the high, she's at 81. I mean, it's not a huge difference, but it is a little bit of a difference. She does have a little bit of a tendency of missing the up ball. So I'm basically telling you how to beat her. So we use this every day in practice. So let me close this out, and I could show you other things that we use it for. So we go back here. We have a quality hit game that we use. We use this for, I don't know the calculations. I know the slappers, they don't do very well, but I think it goes on velocity and all that, and they just hit like 15 hits, and they get points for each hit. So it really helps us with the competition part of it. Also, we use this when we go live against a pitcher. So we use this if we did a new session. We can have a pitcher going on, so we can pitch, we can collect. So here's my pit hitters, and then one of our pitchers here, and then we can get, and then we play ball, and we take that, and then we can take that data, and it has a great sensor, and it shows us, it's a really great strike zone. So, you know, as Division I or even college coaches or any coaches, the strike zone is shrinking up every year because it's trying to get more home runs. So we use this, and if it's not on the plate, then we call it a ball. And then sometimes we use it where there's a liberal strike zone, we will open it up a little bit more. So we use this for a live session also. But basically that's not to, I don't want to go over time. And basically that is what we use our technology for. How does it help us in our competition? Easy. We just get on here and they try to get, we have games where you get 5 swings and we go velo, exit velocity, and then we average it out. We also use it for innings. We'll go against our coach who used to play at University of Washington. She'll come in spinning it around a little bit, and we'll just go outs, and whatever we'll go three outs and see who scores more runs, because you can see where the ball's going, and it'll tell you if it was a hit or not. It takes the subjectivity of oh, that was an out, or that was fair, or that was foul. That's a big component of what we use it, especially using being in the Northwest, being indoors. We have to see where the ball's hit and where it's landing. I think this is a great, this is one of the best things I've ever used. People are using it. People call me about this, and I know there's a lot of other colleges or universities are using this, cold weather and warm weather, that are using this. It just gives you great information all time. So I want to thank you for your time, and if you have any questions, please let me know. I can talk about this for hours, but I'll let the next talker talk.
Thank you, Coach Hirai. We appreciate that. And thanks for the information. I think it's really cool to see what you're doing there. So appreciate that. Coach Johnson, you are up. You go ahead and share your screen, and we will roll right into Rapsodo.
There we go. Just learned something new about Zoom. Apparently, if you share your screen and you're muted, you don't get the option until you actually start talking again. There you go. We learned something new about tech today. So I'm going to jump right in. Coach Wilson pointed out that I like to talk, and so I'm going to try and be as succinct as possible because it's quite a bit to cover. So, first I wanted to talk about understanding what exactly we are talking about when we're measuring a pitch that goes essentially 36 feet to the plate after release. So at 60 miles an hour, that's 88 feet per second. Release to the plate is about 38 feet-ish, give or take. So 0.432 seconds. At 1,500 RPMs, that's 25 revs per second. So we're really only talking about the ball revolving 10 to 11 times. All right. And I want you to let that sink in. 15 RPMs is a pretty elite level of spin. So, you know, and then it also depends on how fast you're throwing it. So if you throw it harder, you're going to get less reps. Okay. And we do have to factor in ball deceleration. My math and physics aren't good enough for that. So you do have about 8 to 10 miles an hour drop. So if we talk about 65 miles an hour is really, you know, probably averaging somewhere in the middle of 60 on the way to the plate. And it's the deceleration that you're seeing is really what when you see a pitch move, you're standing behind the plate or you're standing up to bat, when you see a pitch move, the deceleration is really what's causing that to change in your eyes. So when you look at the Rapsodo report, this is what it comes up on your iPad as you throw it. I'm going to kind of point out some of the features of what's happening here. Okay, first, obviously, the main 4 things we're looking at are the speed, obviously, and if you're used to this stuff, we've got a stalker gun. The Rapsodo is usually a little high on the speed, for what it's worth. Spin efficiency is my number 2. Really, I'm looking for how that ball cuts into the wind. And if you can look at my screen, okay, that axis is this thing, right? So anything, if the ball is revolving and anywhere on that axis, this is 100%. As it gets closer to straight, that's 0%. So if you understand kind of how that works, that's essentially what spin efficiency is talking about. And then overall spin, I don't mess around with true spin because all true spin is 28%, or the percentage, the spin efficiency of the total spin. Okay, so when you're looking at the overall thing, obviously the 3 of them will be going together. Next, you're looking at the actual axis of the ball. Now, normally this would be spinning, not quite good enough to get the thing to actually rotate while I'm talking here. But you're trying to look at what that axis is doing. All right. And that'll help evaluate, or at least help you make sense of what's going on. The next thing you're going to look at is vertical and horizontal break. Now, this, and I'll dive deep into this later. All right, when we start talking about gyro spin, but why a screwball is moving towards the glove side. So what this is actually telling us, okay, what we're seeing is from the pitcher's point of view, how far up and down, left and right does that thing move? And we utilize the horizontal vertical break as an actual metric and number as well. Down here we have release point and angle, horizontal angle. Be quite honest, so far nobody I know has actually found a tool, like a lot of difference between these, and really analyzed it. Obviously the height of release depends a lot on the height of the pitcher, and then, you know, but what we do look at a lot is it different pitch to pitch? So, you know, is the reason why our changeup isn't deceptive is because it's 3 inches lower than the regular pitches. Well, then that might have something to do, and that might be part of our player development. But we do look at that to kind of see the big differences. But as far as, you know, in baseball, they use this a lot, but release points in baseball can be very, very variable over a lot of different people. So so when we talk about this, we're really trying to focus on, you know, is there a big difference, and is that why we're not getting the deception we thought we were? And then at the bottom, on the left, you have the strike view. This is the pitcher's view again. When it first came out, it was the catcher's view, and it was really confusing when you're standing on the mound. But then on the right is the trajectory. A lot of times I use that to show my pitchers kind of what it's doing, because really, and I'll flip to the next slide, what we're talking about is what this is measuring is the difference from 0. Okay, so it's not measuring an absolute straight line. It's measuring what would gravity and no spin and no spin efficiency, you know, so 0 spin, 0 spin efficiency. What would the ball do at that speed? And it's what the Rapsodo is doing is measuring using an algorithm how much different that is. I got to talk to Dr. Alan Nathan about all this. He's one of the physicists that helped write the algorithm. Really interesting because things have changed. And we talk about different pitches like the Laminar Express from Trevor Bauer. I played around with that a little bit. And then also the knuckleball, which defies all logic and physics. So obviously the Rapsodo doesn't do real well with the knuckleball because the algorithm is tough to write for that pitch. But essentially that's what we're doing. All right. On a normal pitch, we're looking at different pitches. You're going to see on the rise ball here, we've got a 90% spin efficiency at 1525. If you see on the horizontal vertical break, you get about 9 inches of vertical break. That's pretty good. I did ask because I was curious what Kelly Barnhill was at, and they said she was up over 15 inches of vertical break. But I didn't get to see the numbers. But in looking at this, you see the spin efficiency at 90 and the spin rate. That's going to lead to some things. But remember, all of this is variable depending on speed. So when you start talking about what's actually going on, we have to always take into account the speed. And then, of course, this axis number up here just tells us that tilt, instead of it being straight back, is tilted just a little bit. Okay, that's what that's trying to tell us. And by that axis, it's meaning it's not this axis, it's this axis. So yeah, explaining the physics on this is awesome. Drop balls, obviously the ball is spinning the other direction. Interesting on this one because it caught a pitch that's just a little different. But if you notice here too, vertical break, 7.4 inches on the vertical, down. Negative means down. On the vertical, horizontal, negative means left, if that makes any sense. If you're used to geometry, that's what that's based off of. And again, based off of a 0, 0. So it's moving down and left compared to a pitch at that speed that would move side to side. All right, the Rapsodo has come out with these numbers as far as the what they have found throughout. I think this is through 2019. And on the left, you can kind of see, okay, MPF numbers, NCAA numbers. Now, one thing to remember, those aren't in-game numbers, right? So they have to gather that information in practice or in a scrimmage. And we use ours in a scrimmage every single time, but they have to gather that information in practice or a scrimmage, which is obviously why the fastball for an MPF player is 61. But the spin rates aren't that inaccurate. What I've found for the elites are 62 plus miles an hour with 1500 plus total spin at 50% or above spin efficiency. Now that doesn't sound, in our head, that doesn't sound like a crazy great spin efficiency, but what I've found in thousands and thousands and thousands of pitches is that 50% on a rise ball is pretty dang good. And I'll kind of tell you why in a second. On a drop, a little bit faster, 1200 plus spin, because obviously the difference is you're taking your hand from behind the ball on a drop ball, right? So there's less that you can create friction. And now on a rise ball or curve ball, you're moving it underneath or on the side of the ball, which allows you to create more spin, but it also takes away speed. All right. And then the next thing I want to talk about was gyro spin. Now, in every talk that I've done when it comes to Rapsodo, everybody complains about gyro spin. One of the things that I think is people don't realize how common gyro spin is in our sport and how effective it is. Now I want you to look at this pitch in particular. This pitch, we also chart after the fact. We chart effectiveness in games. So over the course of our season, if you faced us and you faced this pitcher, she got over 12% swing and miss rate, and that's 12% swing and misses on total pitches, and 12% is a really high percentage. The average is around 8. So when you're looking at things and you're saying, oh, this pitch doesn't really move up and it doesn't really move, well, it actually doesn't move toward the hand side at all. It actually moves the other direction. Like, why is it effective? So one of the things, yeah, and I wanted to point that out, sorry. So, you know, what you want to do is you want to look at where this tilt is. So 0, okay, the ball is pointing straight, but this tilt up a little bit changes the dynamic because of the surface area that you're covering here. And if it's tilted this way, it'll change the dynamic. And you'll see a lot of gyro spin curveballs that are very elite in our sport. Here's my comparison, okay? I use baseball data because baseball has a lot of it. You know, thousands and thousands and thousands of pitches that they do in game. Now, according to the data last year, the slider was the most effective pitch other than a forkball, which like 3 people throw. So I don't count the forkball. But the slider was the most effective. And the whole point of a slider is you're trying to generate gyro spin, 10 to 20% spin efficiency gyro spin. And if you look at it in the zone, 15% whiff rate, 17% difference in overall. Obviously, you get a lot of chase whiffs on this. But I say that to say that the effectiveness of a pitch doesn't necessarily mean that it has to be spin straight sideways or 100% spin efficiency. Very, very good pitchers, if you can tell that. These are all World Series caliber pitchers, are throwing gyro spin pitches. And I can go back if you guys want to later, but you can tell that the ball is a gyro spin. Now, it helps that they're all throwing really, really hard, right? But I wanted to illustrate the fact that when you're seeing that gyro spin, that doesn't mean it's bad. It's just different, okay? It's just different. Next, and this is the huge important part. A lot of people try to use the Rapsodo for 1 pitch at a time. Let's look at it, see what happens. The book, The MVP Machine, talks about how Trevor Bauer, when he was working on the slider, was checking at each pitch. I don't think that makes a whole lot of sense. And if you're talking about Trevor Bauer, what's his worst pitch? The slider, right? Because you need hundreds of pitches to be really accurate in what you're doing. In order to do that, and obviously we have 1 unit, so we have to spread that over tons of pitches. We're trying to put every single day that we throw a pitch, we're using our Rapsodo, and we try to put as many pitches as we can on each pitcher every day. Now, we had 7 pitchers last year, so that means that we got to do a lot of it. But we try to use 1 month cross sections at a time to see trends, not to see, because 1 pitch isn't going to matter in a game. If you can't consistently throw that pitch in that, you know, with that spin direction, even if it's not good spin direction and you don't know what it's going to do pitch after pitch as a pitch caller, well, then it becomes a real problem. So what we don't want to do is get hung up on that 1 really awesome pitch, or every once in a while, you'll see that the Rapsodo, I mean, when you talk about total of 10 revolutions, it's only taking pictures in a window of about 15 feet. So imagine it's got to try to make a determination on what that spin direction is in a very, very, very short period of time. And everything can screw up at that point. So if you're showing your pitcher and they're like, well, I was throwing a rise ball, but it has drop ball spin. If you notice that trend over time, then you really are seeing that right. It's probably not a good pitch, or at least it's not the right pitch. But also, if it shows that once and then the next, 1 time out of 10, and then the rest of them all show the true spin, or the actual spin, then you get used to it. So we try never to use 1 pitch at a time. And we also develop a system for feedback. Now, this is interesting, doing skill acquisition. Start talking about instant feedback versus delayed feedback. And this is why you can use your Rapsodo a little bit more effectively if you don't show them once at a time. What I like to do is I like to have the pitcher click on their pitch so that they're actually involved in the data collection process, but that they don't sit there and watch. They click on it, they go through the next pitch. They click on it, they go through the next pitch. Because of this, all right? What we've seen out of this is, 2 key points. Instant feedback was less helpful in the immediate time. So if you see in this graph, it's showing the circles are delayed feedback, the squares are instant feedback, and only in the first 2 days is instant feedback better. over the course of the time, and then even more so important is instant feedback was less helpful in retention, meaning that after a couple of months, are they going to keep that data? Well, clearly we're seeing here that using delayed feedback is better. That means that as we get those reports, we're actually talking to the pitchers about their pitches with hundreds of pitches in their data. And that way we're allowed to kind of give that space, and the kids aren't looking for it. So that becomes a key point. Now, I stole this. Driveline Edge is a software that you can buy from them. But essentially what you're using all this data for is to create this, to see what the pitches are doing so that you have an understanding of where everything's going to go. This helps you develop plans for different hitter types. It also helps you develop a plan for player development and pitch development. So if all of these pitches are ending up at the same spot, then we need to start to come up with something that is doing something different. Next one. I try to use the cheaper version, which is just graph it. Just graph it using vertical and horizontal break. We just use graphs to say, okay, this is the fastball. Okay, this is the changeup. Notice that everything's breaking towards the glove side. So we sit there and say, okay, well, when we're working on a certain tunnel or a certain plane, then we can kind of use this information to develop that plan. Obviously we can use our tunnels, and we can if we throw everything at this point, then we know this and the changeup are going to just end up in two different spots. So that helps us train pitchers when we're starting to train them in tunnels, and it helps them kind of understand, okay, this is what my pitch is going to do. Over here, the Rapsodo will also give you kind of hot zones. Where does it spin the best? When I throw it there. So for instance, these are in Bauer units. Bauer units are total spin divided by spin efficiency plus speed. You'll have to look that up, but essentially it just shows us that these are the better zones to throw the pitches in. And then I wanted to make sure I covered Rapsodo hitting. I'm not going to go as in depth as Coach Hirai, mostly because I'm a pitching coach and I try to stay out of the hitting cage as much as possible, because I always have an opinion, and so I try to avoid giving it. So essentially, looking at exit speed, launch angle, distance. And one of the cool things that we like to do, we actually, when we get rainy days or something like that, we'll actually put both units, both Rapsodo units inside, and we can actually have competitions. So not only do we challenge our, pitchers by a accountability of measuring what their pitch is doing, but we're also using this as a way to determine, okay, is the ball, what happened? Did it hit the top of the cage? Did it go anywhere? Or is it just a fly ball? So we kind of use this a couple different ways. Again, going back to, exit spin. And I've actually noticed that some people will actually teach off of spin and spin direction. Like I say, make sure that you're collecting a lot of data in order to do that, because if you're going to make a plan for a hitter, then you should definitely make sure that that's what's happening most often. I brought this up to kind of suggest, some of the we have the scatter plot that we can use for the Rapsodo hitting. It's nice, again, using the same kind of in-depth stuff that Coach Hirai uses. Coach Ricketts will use this stuff as information as well. One thing I will say I don't like is the fact that it's on a baseball field. I've brought it up before to Rapsodo, but then we go back to, okay, what are the data that we collected, and how can we use that? All right, max EV. All right, great. Difference in the normal versus that will tell you a lot. Okay, how often are we getting there? How often we can get to our peak exit velo? How often are we getting to our peak launch angle? And again, using it similar to Coach Hirai. I, I, I always try to tell people, okay, you want to, when you're collecting data, stats can tell you a lot of different things. If you haven't figured that out from the coronavirus statistics, you know, statistics can tell you a lot of different things. One thing I would always argue, make sure that you know you're consistent in your data collection. So I kind of showed over here, you have live BP, soft toss, and T. Okay, you can kind of differentiate those. So say you want to only do soft toss with machine balls, and then live you use live and live arm BP, you only use real softballs. Those make a difference because machine balls don't fly as well. All right, they can tell you a lot of things, which is why you definitely want to have a category for it. But you need to do those kind of things. The other thing is live versus BP. You may separate those. Some people that don't like to use machines can separate those as well, simply because you want to know, okay, well, this BP thrower, God bless him, throws basically cookies all day long. Is that giving us a true evaluation of what their actual live swing is doing? And then I always do this for, at the end of any talk that I try to give, is test it out, see what you do. Because honestly, we all talk about, how we use it, but at the end of the day, I don't think that we've come to the end of the road as far as what the best way to do it. So I only say use large samples, use cross sections of data over time, and understand that it's a result, not the process. And I think that's the same thing with pitching. This is the result. This is what happens after the ball is either released or hit. It doesn't tell us how we're getting to that point. And I think that you need to use other things that will help you understand, okay, what is the cause that made this effect, kind of thing. So
thanks, Josh. We're gonna, not to interrupt, but I'm gonna cut you right there.
Yep,
so that
I'm
we
done.
can get to perfect. So we can get to some questions. Let's go to the chat. If you have any questions, make sure that you drop them in. I do have several lined up, so if you want one asked, make sure you put it in there sooner than later. First question: which technology sources seem to have the biggest impact with the athletes as far as monitoring progression, motivating them, and showing them in terms that they understand? So if the three of you could just chime in on what you think works the best with the technology that you use to help motivate and teach the athletes. Travis, Troy, let's start with you guys.
And there's a bunch of all these devices are great. It's, once again, it's what you're comfortable with using, and if you haven't used anything yet, try to find somebody that's using it to go kind of demo it and test it. Not to go back and give Softball Cloud another plug, but they're a data scrubbing company that takes these CSV files from all these different devices and really helps you make some common sense usage out of the data. Because for the most part, you're getting a lot of CSV files with a lot of numbers on it. And for somebody like Josh, that's been doing this for quite some time, he enjoys that because he can take what he wants off that CSV file and do whatever he wants. For others that are just getting into it, they need the graphs, the spreadsheets, they need the bar graphs and a lot of different things to basically take that information and make it useful. So we have Yacratech we use in the bullpen. We have FlightScope we use on the field in game. We have FlightScope that we use in the batting cages when we're hitting in the cages. We've got the Diamond Kinetics that we're using for that that pre-contact data. So we have our hand in a couple different cookie jars, and just listening to the other presenters talk about their data collection device they're using, they all sound like they all have great merit and good stuff about each one of them.
For sure. Jeff, how are you guys using this as teachable moments, and what do you think gets the most information to the kids?
Keep it simple. Really, just keep it simple, as simple as you can. Easy access for the players. They got things going on in their lives more than just softball, and we want to be efficient with our time. So what we try to do is keep it as simple as possible, especially with hit tracks. sending little emails, just sending them the data. They can use it or not use it. But that's basically what we do.
Thank you. And Josh, how about you guys? What's the best way that you get that into the hands of your kids?
I think Coach Uri said it, hit it on the head. I think the big thing is you got to figure out what you think is important and coach to it. I think once you find out what's important and you can constantly reinforce and illustrate that to your kids, then it becomes a lot easier and they can stay focused on what they're trying to do. I think you can overcomplicate this. Obviously, there's a lot of things to kind of digest, but I think at the end of the day, we have to come back. And our feedback has to be simple and organized, and we can individualize it. So maybe I've got one kid working on spin efficiency while the other kid's working on overall spin rate. But at the end of the day, keep it to one or two things that you think are really important and work on them.
Thank you. Next question: with the limited number of coaches at the high school level, how can some of these products help keep players focused and not just going through the motions of another drill? Jeff, you want to start us off with that one?
Yeah, we can use what the great thing about the hit tracks is. The only thing I know is what we use is if you set it up, and you teach the player how to use it, it's self-efficient. All you need is someone to throw to you, or even a batting machine or whatever, and it motivates them to one. The reason why I got this is because our baseball team had it first, and we saw them hitting all the time. And so I was like, wow. And then once we got it, we started hitting more because it's just kind of like a game. It's like a video game for them. So by not having other coaches, you can definitely just set it up and teach them how to use it and let them have it. Let them have at it.
Thanks, Coach. And then, Jeff, another one for you that was in the chat. Do you find it to be pretty consistent what it measures indoors and what you see outdoors? Is it
it's
correct?
really, really consistent. I mean, it's pretty awesome. It is cool to see. Yeah.
Thank you. Travis, you guys, how are you using this as maybe a way that it can motivate players, or if a coach isn't present? Any ideas there?
Yeah, I mean, you're competing against yourself, right? I mean, they're in the weight room, they're trying to improve lifts and all of that type of thing. It's the same thing with their numbers. How quickly can they get to the ball? How far can they hit the ball? How hard they can hit the ball? It's just every day, like, we threw up their measurement as motivation. If you know what your numbers are and you're trying to get better and you're working hard in the weight room, then you should see some pretty good improvements across the board with it.
Thank you. Josh, how about you? Any way to take the place of a coach with some of this tech?
Yeah, the measurement as motivation is I'm stealing that immediately after this show. But the thing to me is that self-improvement is a process and it's over time. It's not something that is an end goal or anything, an outcome that we're trying. So using specific data points that kind of give a kid a bar to kind of, or at least a milestone to try and go for is really easy. So if you got kids over there and I was at a JUCO and I was the only coach there, and you've got kids that need to be working on something, well then, you have to get over this launch angle 50% of the time before you can leave the cage. Oh, I mean, that's super simple. And so anybody can run that drill. You could have just a retired dad that, or grandpa that just throwing some flips or whatever, but you can use those small data points as just markers where, you measure it because it matters. That's simply it. So yeah, I would use it all the time for just different things to kind of continue to keep a standard or a bar that everybody has to go for.
Thanks. Travis, let me come back to you guys with this one. You talked about recruiting aspect and some of the numbers, and what are the three most important metrics for hitters to track? And with players being so different, if somebody sends you numbers, what ones do you want to see?
Probably all of them, because like we're all looking for different things, right? I mean, you really need, it's funny because some of our All-Americans aren't leading our categories in all of these numbers, right? Everyone's different. So it's tough to say I want the highest number of everything, because that player might not then be able to translate that and be able to adjust the pitches in a game. So I think flick everything through to the coaches, and then they can pick out what they like, because what, Josh and Jeff think a hitter should do might be different to what we're looking for. So I would say, that's why they have so many of them, because there's different things that people want to look at. But, I think that's happening now. Players are sending through their numbers for the first time ever. It's not just a video now. It's their files coming through with their numbers, and we straight away, without even looking at them swing, we know that they've got the ability to play at our level. It's just whether they've got all the other intangibles that we need to go see as well.
I think too, the one thing that's pretty easy to see, not necessarily max exit velocity, but kind of percentage of hard hit balls, and like what your exit velocity range is and how often you are at the upper end of that exit velocity, especially in games. Obviously, the harder you hit the ball, regardless if it's on the ground, it's a line drive, it's a fly ball, the harder you hit it, the better the chances you are having a good outcome. So yeah, percentage of hard hit balls is something that you increase that percentage, you're gonna, you see it in the big leagues. They have, like it was mentioned earlier, there's so much data collected in the major leagues that the top 10 guys that hit the ball the hardest the most often in the big leagues are not the biggest guys in the big leagues, but they're always the guys that are competing for batting titles and home run titles and whatnot. So how often can you hit it really, really hard is usually a good place to start.
Thank you very much. Coach Hirai, what do you look for in metrics that come from student athletes and potential student athletes?
That's a good question. If they send me data, I'm going to look at basically what I use is the our hit tracks information. We use that to kind of a baseline of is their exit velocity or hard hit percentage high, and is that at similar as our players, and we can kind of prototype their kids and that body type. That one looks like one of my players. I can look up my data from on them, and then and kind of compare them.
Thank you very much. Josh, how about you? What do you look at when kids send numbers?
Well, I think to me, it's all individual on what everybody thinks they can coach the best. I mean, if I thought that, okay, I'm pretty good at teaching velocity, maybe I should go get a kid that really spins it, is my best philosophy. Well, that data is important because obviously spin rate and direction are going to have a lot to do with, okay, well, can I make the differences I need to make that kid in order to be special? I think also, I think any numbers, especially if you're getting screenshots and that kind of stuff, are super important because it's objective. You got Daddy's radar gun back there for years, and we all, get Dad, or the travel coach saying, "Man, she hit 68 on the gun the other day," and it's like, okay, but I'm getting 64 when I'm recruiting you. Well, obviously now, more important than ever, that we get to see those numbers and we get to see what they're doing, because it's super important to what we're looking at. And we don't have camps, which would be a place that we might be able to get data from. So, those are the kind of things I think that are super important. And I think if you're not using data, then you're also not going to be comfortable with it when you get here. And that's another huge part. So being able to utilize this technology and get a little bit familiar with it is a big deal. But I really enjoy the fact that it's objective. Like there's no way to get around it. If you only hit a ball max at 180 on a hit tracks, you hit a ball max 180 on a hit tracks, that's the number. And one of the things that these things are all validated, so we can actually use that. And I think that's great.
Thank you very much. Most likely last question, unless anybody else has one to jump in here. Have you found that your practice, the flow of your practice, can suffer when you try to implement the technology? Does it slow down? Did it slow down at first, and then as you got more comfortable with it, did it get faster? Are there things that coaches should be aware of when trying to put tech in practice who have never done that before? Seminoles, let's go back over to you guys.
Yeah, we're laughing because in the very beginning, we had a little bit of growing pains and trying to set it up and whatnot. And we have a lot of awesome managers that really help us with a lot of things and trying to get them up to speed on how to set it up and make sure if it's not set up properly, you're not going to get accurate numbers. So that was a huge thing, is making sure we had it set up not only right, but in the right spot and with all the right measurements. And in the beginning it did. It did take away a little bit in the beginning of practice time, just making sure we had it right. But once we got comfortable with it, once the managers got comfortable with setting it up, it really did not hinder practice time. But we're also fortunate to have, a good handful of managers and some really good ones at that too.
Excellent. Thank you. Let's go to Josh. How about you when it comes to setting it up at practice? Any delays?
Oh yeah, of course. The Rapsodo takes about 10 seconds on the pitching side. The hitting one is pretty quick, but the pitching one takes a little bit. So you really have to just kind of be efficient in how it goes. The one thing, like I said, if you don't slow down to go over and analyze every single pitch, it makes it a lot easier. So you're just collecting data. Again, managers are huge, and we have 3 different managers that all know how to use it. And I also make sure that the pitchers know what they're doing. Then that way they can set it up, they know what to do, and it becomes part of the process. But I had to go through the growing pains of having one in 2017, which was brutal, and so you kind of learned the hard way, kind of how to integrate and how you're able to do it. But yeah, to me, the more people that know how to use it, the better. And that kind of helps serve, when you got a lot of people that can help you. But sure, and you also have to understand, like, you can only get what you can get. When it comes to the hit tracks, you probably can't afford 2 of them. So you get what you can get. Rapsodos, you probably only have 1 of them. So you get what you can get. And you kind of have to, that's why, using that data, gathering it over time makes a lot more sense. And I know on the hitting, on our, we use Blast, but on our hitting thing, being able to collect that data is huge, because the girls aren't all that awesome at downloading their own data. Yeah, I'm seeing smiles. They all know that you're sitting there going like, oh. But now that now that Diamond Kinetics and Blast both have an app that you can just suck all the data right out of the thing, now you get charging stations, and charging stations are huge. I built ours. Mr. Woodworker over here just decided to build one. But honestly, I think more important is figuring out ways that you can collect data so that you have it. Because if you don't have the data, it won't matter.
Thanks. Jeff, finish this up for us. How about you? Anything that you've seen delay-wise, or just
education, right? You just got to know what it is. Like, you just got to set it up early, teach them how to use it, and you get going. You're always going to have a little bit of little wrinkles at the beginning, but you just got to know who sets it up and how it's set up. And the more educated you are with it, and then just like anything, you just got to roll with the punches.
Right, you're not going to break it. Travis, you guys said it in the beginning. Get out there and play with it, and then you might break it. But hopefully, you break it soon enough that you get a replacement. But get out and play with it and enjoy it. Well, thank you all so much for joining us for the Tech Talk. You will be getting an email if you registered with a lot of information from all 3 companies. So if you have specific questions, I've seen a few come in on cost and plans and whatnot. That will all be coming your way. So thank you for the executives of these companies for reaching out and helping us put this on. I truly appreciate their help also. And thank you, coaches, for sharing what it is really like and what it really looks like and what you do with it. So appreciate your time. Coach Hirai, Florida State softball, and Coach Johnson, appreciate you all for being here. We are back again tomorrow with the coaching conversation. We've got Sue Enquist that will be joining Mike Davenport along with Jessica Holland. So that should be a lot of fun. Come join us at 1 o'clock. Bring your questions with you. And then don't forget Virtual Coaches Clinic coming up on Friday with Lisa Fernandez, with Heather Tarr, and with Samantha Ricketts. So hope to see everybody at one of those 2. And this will be on our website in just a matter of days. So if you want to go back and look at some of the presentations again, you'll have access to that underneath NFCA forums. So thank you very much, everybody. Until next time, this has been the NFCA with Talking Tech.